So, Romilla, it's lovely to see you and to catch up and to hear about Honesty Group and your wonderful coffee shops across the area. This must have been such a difficult time for you. How have you been coping?
Um, we're sort of we're better now. I obviously was extremely worrying, like it must have been for most businesses across the UK, really. But I think after the first few moments of panic, you can sort of you find your way through the trees, if you like. And I think once the government had indicated that they were going to help businesses financially with the job retention scheme, and then the sort of delayed payment of rates and VAT and stuff like that, I think that made it possible for you to sort of take a step back and then sort of see that there was some glimmer of a future ahead. Because I mean, overnight we went from having a good business with a reasonable turnover to having virtually zero turnover. So, and with 100 staff to pay,
I mean,
that's
you
quite
are.
scary.
So, how many coffee shops have you got across the area?
Well, we were just, fun enough, on the day we had to close down, we were just about to open our 9th coffee shop, which was in Basingstoke Garden Centre. And so it's sort of in that sort of state of pristine condition, but nothing having happened there. But we'll hopefully be opening that soon.
So just to remind people which coffee shops you've got open, you've just recently reopened in the last week.
We opened on, I think it was the 2nd of June. We opened Greenham, Kingsclear, Ink Pen, our one in Bars Yard, and the one in Overton. And the opening's been really good. So I think all the people who were sort of fans of Honesty were very pleased to see us back. They've been very supportive with their comments and so forth. I think the size of most of the shops meant that we could easily sort of meet the government requirements of 2 metre social distancing. And I think when you go into them, the customers feel very reassured and safe, because the way they're laid out, there's a sort of one-way system, and you don't need to come in contact with any other customers.
And so this is a takeaway service. So this is hot drinks and sandwiches.
Yeah, we sort of honed our range a little bit just to make it sort of a bit more sense for us economically, because obviously we didn't want to bring the whole team back to the bakery unit where we manufacture our food in Newbury. So we sort of looked at our best sellers, the things that people sort of were hankering for, we could see on social media when we reopened, and yeah, so we've sort of been managing with a sort of a limited hot food range, sort of our favourites like the sausage rolls and bacon rolls and things like that, and the cakes and coffees.
Okay, and so a little bit about your manufacturing centre in Newbury. It's a kind of commercial bakery, but it's very much on an ethical line. So your whole basis of your business structure is honest food, hence the name.
Yes, yeah. So we have sort of two separate production sort of rooms there. One's the bakery, which in the day is the cakery, if you like, where all the cakes are made, and then in the evening the bakers come in and take over. Everything's made by hand. Obviously the doughs, because they're quite large quantities, are mixed but slowly in Hobart mixers, and everything else then is done by hand. And then in the other room is the kitchen, where the chefs work sort of with doing the hot food and the sort of pastries and that side of the business. So so it's been quite easy to sort of meet the government requirements there, because it's quite a large space. We only have sort of 1 or 2 team members on, and they don't need to come, break the social distancing rules.
Okay, so what have the guidelines been in terms of actual food production?
It's just being much more. We're pretty vigilant anyway in terms of keeping surfaces cleaned and wiping down and things like that. But it's just really reinforcing that, washing hands, wiping down, not obviously forcing staff to be in close contact with each other, which has worked fine. So we've managed the shifts so people aren't meeting and things like that. That's been okay. That's not been a problem.
Okay, okay. And just to remind people who don't know that especially your bread there's no hidden nasties in it. It's literally flour, water, yeast, and
Yeah,
a bit of
yes. I
fat.
mean, we call it real bread, so it has yeast, flour, water, and salt, and then the sourdough without the yeast, obviously. But yes, so that's how we feel.
And
That bread's better for people, and that's the sort of bread we want to stick to making.
and to distinguish it between a kind of supermarket bread, people just probably never read the ingredients of supermarket bread and realise what's actually in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's two parts to that. Is that there's some ingredients in a supermarket loaf that don't need to be legally stated on the ingredients label, because they're considered to be processing aids, and you don't need to name those. But most supermarket bread, sort of 80% of the bread sold in the supermarket probably has about 25 or 30 ingredients. So of the ones that are on the label, but there are others as well that don't need to be on the label. So lots of
Blimey.
people don't
And
realise that.
if you think about how much bread a family eats over the lifetime, we get through a lot of bread. So even if it's tiny amounts, that is going to accumulate.
Yes, and I think I mean, it's done. I think it's primarily done so it has a longer shelf life for the
Yeah.
producers. I don't think that's done for the customer so much. I think bread's been devalued as a product, even though it's a staple product that people sort of have relied on for years and years, going back, to the 18th century. Yeah, so I think it doesn't need to be like that, basically. So.
And your cookbook, what's for dinner, second helpings? I love the recipes in that book, and I just love your whole ethos towards food. It's very down to earth.
Well, that came into a lot of. I used that a lot during lockdown because we had 9 people in our house, so
Blimey.
I had to go back to cooking twice a day, lunch and dinner. And
I think that's been a real shock for people, is realising how much effort it is to cook for yourself. We're so used to buying food out on the go, on the run, or going to restaurants.
I think so, yeah. But I have had a conversation with a lot of people who felt having to rely on their home cooked food. They felt much healthier in the sort of lockdown, and I also got the feeling you notice on Instagram and sort of other social media that people had sort of fallen in love with home baking bread and cakes and things. It was really quite a nice period to watch people exploring all those sort of.
I think it's really grounding. I think it's really good for the soul. But I mean, I was one of those millions of people who decided to learn how to make sourdough with various degrees of success, I have to say. But I can just see that going out of the window now. Normal life is starting to come back, and I don't feel like I've got the time, which is a shame. I really should make more effort to.
No, I think with bread baking, you do have to be based at home, working from home, to be able to do that, unless it's at the weekend, and then you can maybe put some in the freezer because it freezes really well. But obviously you can come to Honesty for your bread.
Absolutely. And tell us about, you've got a new click and collect service.
Yeah, we're calling it Click, Collect and Go, because just to emphasize the fact that you're sort of you can pick it up from the coffee shops. So yes, you order online, and we're sort of broadening our range of products we've got available online, so you'll be able to order sausage rolls, cakes for the weekend. We've also got some really nice sort of hampers and things if you want to have sort of a weekend at home with people, with your family. You can order some things for the Friday evening, for Saturday morning breakfast, and for Sunday like a joint or something for your roast.
Okay.
So all those sort of things. I think that's the other sort of thing that changed a little bit in lockdown, was that people really turned a bit more to e-commerce, didn't they, in terms of.
Oh, definitely. So you're offering meat.
Yeah, because we have the links because of our farm shop in Saddleback. So,
of course.
And we've used this time to also make some really good relationships with some British farmers, which I'm hoping you'll start to see that in our sort of shops where we do sell meat. So with hopefully a local pig farmer, and we're just about to hopefully get a relationship off the ground with a local beef and lamb fast.
Okay.
So be really good.
That's, I mean, with all these concerns about the reduction in, you know, imported meat and the standards and stuff, it's really worrying, isn't it?
It is worrying, because I think once if our shelves do get sort of flooded in the supermarket with cheaper imports from America and Argentina and Brazil and places like that, our farming, I mean, people do, especially if we're going to go into harder times financially, people are going to be more conscious of where they're spending their money, and they're going to maybe turn away from British farming. But the thing is, you've got to stick with British local food, because once you get rid of it, you're not going to get it back.
No.
So, and those, you know, those times, I think what happened in lockdown really illustrated that a sort of elongated supply chain doesn't necessarily always cope in difficult times. And whilst we pray there's no more coronaviruses around the corner, there are going to be interruptions to the food supply because of environmental issues, you know, blights to crops and things. We really need to be a bit more self-sufficient in terms of the food that we produce, I think, as an island.
Yeah, but also the animal welfare aspect of it. You know, our standards are really good here, and it's a shame to you know, erode that if our
No, definitely. I mean, yeah, these things are, and I think the British public deserve to have more sort of information about that. I mean, labelling is so poor on some food items that I think that needs to change, doesn't it? So that consumers can make the decisions. The government's saying that consumers should be the ones who are making the decisions, which is fine, but then they have to give them all the information to make those decisions. So.
And they have to force the producers to declare the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So obviously, as a local employer, and you know, you've got this, you know, quite a significant chain now of coffee shops across the area. How important do you think it is that the public supports local businesses at this time?
I mean, it's hugely important, because otherwise you're just going to end up with a bland high street that's just run by the big business. And I mean, we employ local people, we use local suppliers where we can. We skill up our workforce, where, you know, all our bakers came from supermarkets, but we've helped them sort of increase their skill level. You know, we take on coffee shop staff. We don't just want them to stand there and serve. We want them to learn to sell to people, to know about the food they're selling. These things are really important, because I don't think you can make the right decisions about your food necessarily, even if you don't know enough about it. You know, we've become disengaged with our food, I think, and if the people are selling it and producing it know about it and love it, then I think that's as important for the consumer knowing about it and loving it in a way, isn't it? We don't want a de-skilled workforce. So
and what does the future hold? I mean, obviously this is a difficult time to ask this question, but hopefully your Basingstoke shop will open fairly soon.
Yeah, we've got plans to open another 3 on the 4th of July, and obviously get the pub up and running again.
So just the ones that are going to be opening on the 4th of July, just remind us which ones.
So the Basingstoke Garden Centre one, which is inside the garden centre, and then we've got Bucklebury Farm reopening, and Houghton Lodge, which is near Stockbridge.
Okay.
Hopefully that's opening. We're not completely sure about that, but yes. So, and we're going to try and maintain the 2-metre distancing in all of them, because I think with our demographic customer, I think they'll feel happier going to places where they know they're not going to be sitting within 1 metre of people. They're going to be able to have some fresh air, be outside, and also if they're inside, still be 2 metres apart. I think that's what we're going to do. So
I think there's a real cross-section of confidence in the public, and there are some people who will be very nervous for a long time. And
yes, and rightly so. I think if it's at a restaurant in Soho in London, where your demographic is 20 to 25-year-olds, they're not at so much at risk, are they? So they can make different. They want to make different choices, and that's fine. But I think possibly our demographic's slightly different, and probably has different feelings about it. So.
So with the Saddleback Farm Shop, can you just remind us a little bit about what they're doing at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment, the shop's open, so you can go in and get your supplies. You
They
can
were
also,
really busy, weren't they, with
yes,
delivering?
yeah. And then we're still doing deliveries. We're going to continue to do deliveries there.
Okay.
But you can also now go in and take away cakes and coffee and things. But on the 4th, we'll be opening the tea room again, probably, I'm hoping, with the 2-metre distancing still. And we've also got the outside there, so
Okay.
it's a bit more scope.
So will you just have to take some of the tables out that you originally had?
Yes, or take a few of them out and spread out a bit more. I think we've got the room there to spread out, so
And in the summer it's just such a lovely destination for people to go, and
no, amazing views there.
yeah,
absolutely beautiful. So
and for people who don't know, it's kind of roughly halfway between Newbury and Wantage.
Yes, it's on the Newbury Wantage Road, so it's probably about 10 minutes from Wantage and probably about 10 minutes out of Newbury, central Newbury. Yeah, so it's lovely. Yeah, really nice.
Lovely. Well, you must have been working so hard, and I just hope, it hasn't been too stressful a period for you. Hopefully you had an army of accountants and bookkeepers and stuff and helping you kind of jump through.
Yeah, I mean, our management team's very good, so they've been really supportive, really willing to sort of embrace new ideas and to look at, we spent the time, actually a lot of time, just looking at the structure of the company, sort of putting some things right that were wrong and we probably wouldn't have had time to do in the normal situation. So in that respect, I think the lockdown served us well. Obviously the loss of income has been significant, and we've continued to pay 100% of all the wages, so
well done.
but it's interesting times, and I don't think most businesses who are going to survive will not be the same again, so they'll have changed to a certain extent in some way, so
it's adaptability, I think, is the key to success in situations like this. And as you say, there can be a silver lining. You can come out of it with some strings to your bow that you didn't have before. So
definitely. Hopefully we've got a future. There were times when I thought this isn't going to work and we're going to have to shut. So, but luckily we've managed to find a way through, I hope.
What a relief.
But it's still going to rely on people coming to us. So
absolutely.
Please do.
So just to remind people to find out about their local kind of opening times for their local coffee shop, wherever they are across the area, they can visit your website, which is honestygroup.co.uk.
That's right, and all the opening times are on the specific coffee shop locations, because some vary a little bit. Generally they're 8 till 3, but there are some variations, so do check there. And you can always call the coffee shops to check, or just
and the pub in Inkpen, the Crown and Garter.
So the hotel, so we're doing a takeaway service at the moment from Thursday to Sunday.
So is that meals to reheat at home, or meals?
Or they don't need reheating. I ordered one last Thursday, and we're near Newbury, so it took about 20 minutes to get it back, but it was still okay to eat. So
okay, great.
And then we've got the shop that pretty much runs along similar hours, but do just check the website because it's slightly different. Hopefully on the 4th we'll be open to dining in the garden and in some space in the restaurant. We've got a nice new menu, so please do look. We'll be up there soon.
So, presumably you won't be able to fit in as many covers as you did before, because you won't be able to have as many people in the building at the same time.
Definitely not inside, no. We'll hope the weather, fingers crossed, the weather will be kind to us this summer. We're using more space outside. We're sort of going to expand into the sort of hotel garden there, and to do some dining there as well, which will be quite nice, I think, because if the evenings are as warm as they are at the moment, it will be lovely. But obviously the weather's not very predictable, so I think we just have to be agile and react, sort of, and do what we can inside, and that's all we can do, really.
Absolutely. Gosh, well, exciting that they can't wait to have people back in properly.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I imagine the 4th will be quite busy, and lots of pubs and restaurants, which will be fantastic. So
Lovely. Well done. Honestly, it's been such a journey, and I'm just so relieved to hear that you guys have kept all the balls in the air and you're gradually
Thank
coming back to
you,
normal.
Penny. But also, you provide an amazing platform for people to publicise their businesses through in the local vicinity. So that's, you
Thank
know,
you. Well,
you
I'd never
provide
heard
so
of
much.
Zoom before the 23rd of March or whenever it was. So.
No, exactly. I think that's a new discovery for lots of people, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Lovely. Thank you, Romilla.
Okay,
Thank you for your
thanks,
time.
Penny. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.